Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 138 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on November 8th, 2022. Good evening, or good morning, or good day, for whatever timeline in which you reside, travelers. I just had a wonderful workout, actually. I went old school. This evening. Squat, bench, deadlift, pull-ups, curls, done. It was one of those, I'm just going to hit this crazy. I've had a busy week, haven't been able to hit the gym. It's like, let's just get in there and go a little wild. It was extreme. Yeah, cranked up some 90s industrial music, and I went ham. Very violent, very good. Yeah, it really feels good. Also, I'm very hungry, and I need food. I had a protein shake. We're going to give this podcast the old college try, as they say. So bear with me as I plow through this. No, it'll be great. And, I did want to say, my goodness gracious, it's rifle season for whitetail deer in Texas. And opening weekend it just happened this past weekend, and it is so great. What a wonderful time of year. The weather was great. The deer were out in full force. Some great hunting, great wildlife observation, great education, great recon, great wildlife management practice, I tell you what. Man, what a great weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend too. One second. Excuse me. Okay, so this week we are back to work, back to reality, back to data and analysis. That's right. Went hard in the paint after hunting, prepared some more data for you, and it's almost ready. Yeah, this week is going to be a banger. I'm frankly rather excited for it. Yeah. And so on today's episode, I'll mention that upcoming release, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But also first, we'll speak about hunting with silencers and thermal. That's right. I'll give you some firsthand experience from this weekend, and we'll talk topical use, and even go into some real thermal use case discussions with some new gear. I think that'll be really cool. Thermal, you may ask. That's right. Oh, yes. Need something wild and crazy? I've got your guy. I think I've got your guy. Check out High End Armament. That's right. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by High End Armament Technology, a dealer of exactly that. High End arms and accessories. They have significant longevity in the machine gun and the NFA game, as well as significant expertise in both the procurement and operation of night vision, thermal optics, and infrared sighting systems. They do. Robert and his crew have decades of experience and actual knowledge of the gear. It's a welcome, refreshing thing that I found about them. It's very refreshing to talk with those folks. If there's a weapon system that's rare and you're having trouble locating it, or if you need to get into the night vision or thermal game, the transferable machine gun game, something like that, something exotic stuff, they're a great place to call. Check them out at highendarms.com. on Instagram at High End Arms, and they even have a Facebook page, which is also High End Arms. That's right. I hope they can help you folks out if you need it. It's good to have a resource at your fingertips like this. Believe me, it's rare. So if you do use them, tell them Jay sent you. And secondly, a really great sponsor of the podcast is Silencer Shop. That's right. The J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop for quite a long time now. You can use their kiosk. You can do your fingerprints and photos electronically. And in turn, you'll most likely cut down on errors and simplify your silencer purchasing process. It's pretty cool what they've done. No money back guarantee. It's pretty great. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. That's right. And there's a couple things I've implemented on the show notes of each episode on the website at pewsounds.com/podcast, and also in the show notes in your favorite podcast provider if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or something like that. There are some codes. You can check out True Shot Gun Club out of Arizona in those links. If you click that link in the show notes, it takes you to their site. When you click those links and you buy stuff, it does help the podcast, so that's important for you to know. And if you do go there and you join their A-Zone membership to get free shipping on all the ammo you buy from them over a calendar year, or a year period rather of your membership with them, if you decide to do that, which is kind of cool because if you buy a lot of ammo, free shipping's awesome. If you do that, use code word PewScience and you'll get $20 off that membership. So I'm trying to save you guys some coin and help the podcast. Also, Magpul jumped in. And if you click the Magpul link in the show notes or on the website, use code word PS10, that's PSTEN, to get $10 off your order of $100 or more at Magpul. So just keep buying mags, dude. And if you're going to buy mags from magpul.com, straight from the source, the fresh, I heard that's where the freshest polymer is, frankly. You should use the link on the website and use the code word. It's important. That's right. And lastly, and most importantly of all, forever, this podcast is sponsored by Pew Science. Pushing the silencer industry forward, one test at a time, dragging them kicking and screaming against their will. And it's working. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating, the simplest and most accurate hearing safe rating for your suppressed small arms. It's based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot. That's right, from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. That's right, it's the entire sound signature. That's all you're going to see from Pew Science. Pew Science is the home of the silencer sound standard. 7 sections, the most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the entire world. Check it out on pewscience.com. You can support this podcast, Pew Science, and all the testing I do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. There's also a donate feature on the review page and the podcast page. Every little bit helps. And something that's free and doesn't cost you anything. You can go to your favorite podcast provider and give it the old good old 5-star rating right there in iTunes or Spotify, and just let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome and normalize the use of suppressed small arms. That does help that. It is important. We must win. What good is trying if you're not trying to win? I mean, it's what? You want to do something half-assed? Like, come on, guys. I got 3 topics for you today. Topic 1, whitetail deer hunting. Suppressed with thermal? I mean, yeah. The future is now, old man. It is, though. Topic 2, new sound signatures reviews this week. This week? Yeah. Multiple. Maybe. I tell you what. You can have a little data as a treat. No, but you can. And topic 3, I did do this. I just finished sending the latest batch of welcome emails to all the new Pew Science members. I do send all those emails, and I really do want to thank all you folks for your support. All of your grassroots contributions to the effort have enabled it to continue. It hasn't stopped. 2022 is ending, and we're still going. We're normalizing suppressed small arms, and doing so is a team effort, and it is totally working. And that's because of you. That is because of you. Okay, so thank you. I'll talk about that as I always do. I never want to do an episode without thanking the backbone, which is the Pew Science members, the salt of the earth. Okay, let's go to topic 1 at a time of 8 minutes and 22 seconds. Okay, and I talked about this. Let me get a drink of water 1 second. I put this in a story on social media. Was I feeling a little bit aggressive? Absolutely. I'm working out. Testosterone is surging. I might have a little pre-workout in my system. Hey man, when it comes to your adrenal glands, you got to spend money to make money, baby. He's an addict. No. This topic 1, before I get into this, I just want to say I do record these podcasts myself the night before release, and I do it all in one shot. I do not edit these. So I just want you to know that. And I don't know if you folks knew that, and if you've ever spoken into a microphone and recorded yourself and done it like 138 times for over an hour, you might appreciate what could go wrong and what it takes to stay on task and create something that hopefully will help others. I recognize that not every episode is going to be a banger, but I also recognize that we're sharpening the chops here. So whether it be a musician or an athlete or anybody, you gotta put in the hours. And I think this is getting better. I think a lot of people are getting a lot of benefit from it. That's the feedback I receive. Sure, there's negative feedback too, but I try to focus on the positive and take the negative feedback as constructive criticism where I can. So if you do have feedback, please let me know. But I just wanted you to know this is a one-man band. And as one of my gracious Peace Science supporters told me today, I might be a madman. And as I told him, and I think I shared this on social media as well, I told him there's a fine line between greatness and insanity. And I feel like as long as we walk that line together, we can just keep one foot. We can put one foot in the greatness zone. And if we got to dip a couple toes into that insanity zone, hey man, how bad do you want to win? Topic 1, whitetail deer hunting suppressed with thermal. The future is now. Indeed it is. Now, to be clear, I don't know how many of you have hunted with super old school master hunters. And look, I'm not talking about some old fuds necessarily, but they could possibly be fuds. They could. I'm not saying they're fuds, but no, they are. It's okay. I learned, and I think I've told you guys this before, I learned deer hunting from a really old dude, and he taught me a lot. I also picked some stuff up from a true master hunter, a guy, and I know that sounds cliche to some of you, so be it. He was a guy who he has, I mean, he's not dead. He's alive. I just don't hang out with him anymore. This guy has hunted all kinds of game his entire life and done it really well, and he's very practiced. And both of those guys that I learned from, they never used silencers or thermal to hunt. They never did. I mean, sure, it was several years ago now that I hunted with them, and and now maybe one of them has used thermal or maybe shot a silencer, but it's probably unlikely. Now, 1 second. That protein shake, though. Maybe they use some gear, but I know for a fact one of them might have dabbled into night vision, but he's not into it. And those guys, they hunted for decades without those things. And the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's a pretty simplistic saying. It does ring a little true, I think. But I think another cliche saying that's more appropriate for this idea would be old habits die hard. Also, you got the movie Die Hard. It's great. And it's absolutely a Christmas movie. So if there were any doubt about that, just to settle that debate, if there's one at your Thanksgiving family dinner, sure, we're a little early, but it's never too early to speak about that movie during the holidays. I just want to let you know Die Hard is a Christmas movie. But yeah, old habits do die hard. And when something works, you tend to stick with it, yeah? And especially in the context of hunting and whitetail deer hunting. No less. I don't know how many of you hunt whitetail deer, but you got to think about, why do we hunt whitetail? Okay, is it for the challenge? Is it for the meat? Is it for the wonderful clean skull we present on our wall in order to remember the glorious murder in which we participate? No, it's probably for all of those reasons, to be honest, right? I mean, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, as they say. But most of all, the challenge is what makes it fun. And when you have done it for years and gotten really good at it, you did it by making mistakes, being consistent, and you did that through hard work. Like anything, right? You honed your craft. You are a craftsman of murder and death. You are a bringer of death. And that sounds morbid, but it is true. And there's an art to murdering and hunting and being a predator. I don't like, people say harvest. Like, oh, I harvested this buck. And some people hate that and they say it's cringy and all this stuff. But when you're focusing on wildlife management, meaning taking an ecosystem and trying to return that ecosystem to a state in which it was prior to overgrazing or human interaction prior to settlement, or if you're trying to maintain that state of the land, you can use various tools, the gun, the axe, the plow. There's a lot of, and all you wildlife biologists and wildlife managers will know what I'm talking about there. We don't have to go too deep into that, but you're doing that. My train of thought literally just left the station. That was so crazy. That's what I get for talking about doing this in one shot with no editing. But we talk about murder and it being morbid, and that's right. I was talking about harvest. So some people call it harvesting and not murder, and it is a harvest in some respects when you're operating it for the big picture. Like some deer hunters just go into the wild and they will cull a deer, but they don't see it as culling a deer. They're just hunting for meat or for the beautiful skull to put on their wall. And frankly, I think both of those things are absolutely okay. Some people are they're harvesting a certain percentage of the population of mammals, just like they would harvest a crop of soybeans. And that's where that harvest term comes from. Okay? From an animal census count with a wildlife biologist. So, you folks that are, you get super on your high horse and you denigrate people because they use the word harvest. It's like, okay, I totally understand where you're coming from about being kind of like, you almost feel like they're whitewashing it. Like you feel like, well, you're trying to make it seem less murdery by saying harvest. And are those people who use the term harvest doing that? Some of them might be. But I do want you to know that some people that use the term harvest, they're using it because that's actually a really good term to use. And it depends on the vernacular, right? It depends on the context. Like a lot of things, a lot of nuance in this. But make no mistake, even those individuals or organizations that use the term harvest, and I've used it before for myself, make no mistake, lethality is key to success in the activity and the ethics of the activity. You do not want the animal to suffer, just based on principle. Because you're a human being, you have a higher level of intelligence. You should command that and expect that of yourself. Therefore, if you make a bad shot, if you don't know how to shoot, if you used an undersized cartridge with the ballistics that are inappropriate for the game you are murdering, you are irresponsible. Whether you might have inadequate training, inadequate gear, or sometimes you just get unlucky. Now, when you're unlucky, that's not necessarily being irresponsible, but what do those two dudes do that taught me how to hunt? They hunted for so long, they honed their craft. You make less mistakes when you practice, right? You don't only practice to learn how to do something, you practice to remain awesome. Okay? That's right. So if you change anything about the process, or a process, if you change any process that's honed over years and years of experience, you risk injecting a failure vulnerability, don't you? You do. So how do we avoid that risk? How do we avoid the risk of introducing a failure vulnerability into the system? Education is one way to reduce risk, because you're human. If we were talking about robots, you would just teach the robot a routine. Be like, well, there's a failure vulnerability here. We're going to go ahead and insert an algorithm into the robot, and the robot is going to not make that mistake because it now has a path to reroute, alternate power, like when Arnold he's down on the grading in Terminator 2, and they're like, well, he gets stabbed through the back there by the T-1000 with a steel rod. in the steel mill there, and he's on the grating, and he's, and, you know, he's like, you know, a little red glow of his eye goes away. And you're like, oh my God, Arnold's dead. This is horrible. Terminator's dead. He's like, well, John Connor, no. And then Arnold's like, yeah, it's like alternate power. It like reroutes his power like around the compromised section of his robotic anatomy there. You know, because what did he have? He had a predetermined algorithm in his CPU there, in his, you know, because he was a cybernetic living organism, you know, he's a cyborg. You are not one, but it doesn't matter. You can still have an alternate fail-safe strategy in your CPU, in your brain. And how do you get that? Education. Every podcast I give you, all I'm doing is repeating information. I'm almost saying the same exact thing. 138 episodes. I'm almost saying the same exact thing to you in different ways because I'm tricking you into learning. I am building your neural pathways to a degree that they're so deep, and I'm in your walls, bro. I'm in your walls. I'm in your brain, and you know so much. You know so much more than you think you know. Some of you are so sharp. I see it. It's awesome, and that's what we're going to do right here, talking about this. So like any other technology, a knife, a gun, a space laser, a silencer, and a thermal weapon sight are tools in a hunter's toolbox. Okay? They both allow you to enhance your shooting and hunting experience, and when you use them correctly, they can be of great value to even the most established and experienced hunters. I don't care who you are. If you're Fudd McGee, that you're 80 years old, and you're like, I don't need that. I just use a 30-06 and I shoot that deer so good. And it's like, you do, bro. That's awesome. But guess what you could do with a thermal? Be awesome. The first thing I would like to discuss, and we might get to thermal, we might not. I want to talk about silencers first because, hey, what is this Pew Science? 1 second. The first thing I would like to discuss is silencers. And I'm going to walk you through some silencer selection for hunting purposes, okay? And for most hunters, this boils down to 3 major criteria, really. It boils down to length, it boils down to weight, and it boils down to signature reduction to the shooter. Okay? Are there other factors that might be important to you overall? Yeah, there are. There's 9 of them on pewscience.com/rankings. I can't tell you how many times people forget that there are a lot of factors, but hunting silencers are most often rifle silencers. Okay, and so unless maybe you're hunting with a pistol or with a 300 blackout subsonic rifle, which can and 300 blackout subsonic can be suppressed through most pistol silencers, but we're just relax. We're talking about that's very niche hunting. I'm talking about the most common case. So for a rifle silencer, it's going to need to be short enough so it doesn't make your rig ungainly long and hard to maneuver. That's a general rule of thumb. There's an exception to that. For example, if you have a silencer that you can expediently attach to your barrel only when you're about to use it, if you don't have to use your rifle suddenly, okay, this isn't a tactical situation. This is a hunting situation. The animals are not shooting back at you. For example, like if you're hiking with your rifle and you are eventually going to get to your position and not use the rifle until you get to that position, maybe length won't matter to you because you aren't walking around with the silencer attached to the gun. Okay, I mean, don't like assume you need to be Rambo to hunt deer. I mean, you can, and I think it's awesome, but you definitely don't have to. I mean, just be pragmatic in your gear, right? I mean, it's like, let's be honest with each other. You can do. I'm all for using a belt-fed weapon to hunt. It's not efficient, but do it. I don't care. Use a missile, dude. I don't like. You're not going to save any meat, but you certainly will harvest. Dude, I don't care. Up to the level of tactical nuclear weapons, I feel like arms should be unregulated. Really, we can get to that discussion some other time. But do you want to turn this into Mogadishu? Well, it probably wouldn't. Force on force. Yeah, we can talk about that later. It gets complicated, but basically, you don't want to be too much of an idealist. But I do believe, rocket launchers should be fine, things like that, and so you can be, if you want to take, a certain weapon out to hunt, you can. You should know, though, for example, like in Texas, the Texas Parks and Wildlife regulations, like you cannot hunt game animals with machine guns in Texas. And that's not my rule. That's the rule of Texas. In fact, up until a few years ago, you couldn't hunt with silencers in Texas. I don't know how many of you know that, but you can't. Or you could hunt with silencers, but you couldn't hunt game animals. Like, for example, in Texas, like a whitetail deer, that's a game animal. A hog, that's not a game animal. That's a non-native invasive species that we can kill by any means necessary. With a whitetail deer, you pull out your M11-9 and you want to shoot that whitetail deer. Yeah, better hope a game warden doesn't see you, because that's definitely illegal in Texas. Like, you cannot use a machine gun to kill a whitetail deer in Texas. Like, I've seen so many people like, yeah, I'm just gonna use my machine gun. It's like, yeah, dude, that's cool. Like, philosophically, I have nothing against that. Like, as long as the animal doesn't suffer, but you don't waste a lot of meat. Why would you need that? Plus, like, it's illegal in Texas, so okay, you can still use your semi-auto rifle just fine. Okay, if you don't care about length, I know I went off on a tangent. If you don't care about length because you're being pragmatic and you're just going to get to your hunting spot and set up and you're stationary and the rifle can be as long as you want it to be and you're not in a tiny blind or something to maneuver it, hey, that's cool. But I can tell you right now, for most people hunting, and because I've hunted for a very long time, the overall length of your weapon system is going to be a concern for maneuverability. Okay, it just is, and if it's not for you, you are probably the exception, not the rule. Okay, and also I would say for a rifle silencer, weight. That's that other factor. Weight can be extremely important when hunting. It can. Most rifle barrels used for hunting are relatively long. I know this is a kind of a niche podcast, and a lot of you are NFA freaks and you have SBRs, and that's awesome, because I'm one of you. I'm telling you, most rifle barrels used for hunting are relatively long. And because of that, added weight is magnified due to something called moment. Okay, I'm not going to get too technical during this topic, but let's get a little technical right now. A moment, you can think, we don't have to go super deep, but you can think of it as the same as a torque applied to the point of rotation where the weapon is supported. Okay, so when you shoulder your rifle, the longer the barrel and the heavier the weight hanging off the end of that barrel, the more rotation your support structure, like your arms, your hands, your body, are going to have to deal with. Okay, you are counteracting that moment, that torque. Okay, that torque of the equivalent mass multiplied by the length of that moment arm, the length of the lever. Okay, the length of your barrel. That's right. At first, you might not think the weight of a silencer matters that much, and that they're all pretty similar. You might think that, and that's where you would be wrong, especially as your barrel gets longer and the silencer gets longer. Okay, try it out yourself in a gun shop or with a friend, or on a long bolt gun. Try it. Okay, I've hunted with a 20-inch bolt action with a rugged surge in the full configuration. That rugged surge is heavy, it's steel, it's long, and I put it on a 20-inch bolt gun and I have hunted with it. How do you think that felt? Well, it felt great when I shot it. It's great feeling when you shoot it. When you're carrying it around, it's not a great feeling. If you have to stand up and shoot, it's not a great feeling. Okay, I mean, you can be a hero and talk on the internet all day and yell about how you're super strong and you don't care about weight because it's like, okay, well, okay. Shoot better with the silencers lighter, trust me. Finally, the most common factor, and this is from my brain, but this is from observation and experience. The third most common factor is signature reduction to the shooter. And for the most part, hunters are concerned with not having to wear hearing protection in the field. It's very common. And they really want to hear their surroundings. It's something hunters really want. And frankly, it's actually really great to be able to hear your surroundings, and it's enjoyable. And with modern advancements in electronic hearing protection, which uses microphones and filters to reproduce audio, right? But what it does is it blocks overpressure with a mechanical seal, right? That's how they work. That it's actually becoming less important technically. To not wear hearing protection to hear your surroundings, because there's a lot of advanced electronics now. And for a long time, I would wear those hunting because I was like, oh my God, it like amplifies the sound, and this is great. Like, I mean, it's pretty economical, But practically, hearing protection, it's pretty important. No matter what technology is available, even if you have electronic hearing protection, it's oftentimes seen to be inconvenient by users, especially experienced users. Like, show me an experienced hunter that likes to wear hearing protection. I mean, that's changing now, but man, there are tons that would never dream of taking hearing protection on a hunt. I know that sounds weird to a lot of you based on the nature of this podcast, but I'm telling you, a lot of them would never even dream of using hearing protection. Both the guys I learned to hunt from, they would never wear hearing protection hunting. Okay, and they hunt. I'm gonna say one of them 300 Win Mag and 308, or quite a lot, and the other one is like 270 all the time, or like a 243 Winchester because he did coyote a lot, and it's like, yeah, that's loud. Okay, bolt gun stuff, and it's a complicated issue, and it's a very human issue. And the same inconvenience seen by individuals regarding wearing hearing protection while hunting can be applied to using silencers while hunting, right? So lengthening your gun, making it harder to handle and heavier to carry and shoulder, it's definitely an inconvenience. It is. And some folks may go so far as to say that it's more convenient and cheaper to simply wear hearing protection and forego the use of a silencer altogether. And those people would not necessarily be incorrect. Okay, let's be pragmatic. Those people would not necessarily be incorrect. However, I do have a counter argument that I believe has technical merit. Okay, this isn't philosophical, it's more technical. I have spoken about this before. The propensity for you to not wear hearing protection or wear ill-fitting hearing protection or be placed in a situation in which wave amplification from reflecting surfaces can occur. And I've talked about this stuff being significant when hunting. Okay? And the hunters out there that you're listening, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So when you use a silencer, it is my opinion that it should be thought of as supplementary hearing protection. Okay? The use of a silencer will reduce your risk of hearing damage over and above the use of plugs or muffs, things like that. And the spectrum, the spectrum of how the primary hearing protection devices fit, that the silencer is going to help you on top of that, because you don't know. There are proper ways to put earplugs in, and raise your hand if you know how to put a foam plug in your ears. I know how. I roll it between my fingers, right, to squish it. And then let's say I'm doing that with my right hand. Then I take my left hand and I put it over my head and I grab the top of my right ear with my left hand and I pull up and I tilt my head. And then I stick the squished, now rolled into a tight cylinder foam earplug into my ear canal. And then really deep. And I hold my ear like that until it expands deep into my ear, thus creating the proper mechanical seal. Okay, that's with a simple little foamy. How many times have you seen someone use foam hearing protection, whether it's shooting or like at your job site, if you're at work and you work in a noisy environment, and you look at them head on, like you're looking face to face with someone, and you can see their little foam earplug sticking out of their ear from the front of their face. If you can see their foam earplug when they're wearing it, chances, and this isn't perfect, but it's an indicator, chances are it's not inserted properly. And how many times does that happen? Oh, I'd say mostly. Just from being in an industry that works with loud things. So you know what I mean? So there's people that do that, all the way to people with ops core amps with double hearing protection, with the NFMI plugs in. So they're wearing double hearing, or with custom fitting earplugs from an audiologist. There's a spectrum, but no matter who you are or what you're doing, no matter if you're with no ears on, the foamies, to the amps, to the Walker or Howard Light Academy special, Walmart special, using a silencer on top of that is an additional layer of protection. By utilizing multiple layers, you stand a better chance of reducing the risk of damage to your ears. Real talk. Okay, so all that being said, the performance of the silencer as part of the suppressed weapon system in signature reduction to the shooter is paramount to many hunters. Okay, it's paramount. And that's regardless of the exact configuration of the hearing protection system. Okay? So all that being said now, I postulate that it's more likely for you to be safer during hunting by using a silencer than not, all other things equal, given what I know about risk. Okay? And that goes for bystanders hunting with you as well. But that is not as common an occurrence for hunting use of suppressed small arms overall, because group hunting with rifles is less common than solo hunting in many areas. Nonetheless, bystanders do matter, and it can be important, especially if you're teaching your kid to hunt or something. So now that I have laid out some rationale and justification for the three main factors important for a hunting silencer: the weight, the length, the shooter's ear performance, I want to walk you through some of my personal choices this season. So what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how it is working out for me so far. Okay, because I'm doing some weird stuff this season. Okay, and so this is a real use case, and maybe it will help some of you with some decision points you may have in your own hunting or in your own shooting life. And I figured, would we talk like this about this? Maybe I talk and tell you what I'm dealing with myself, and maybe it helps you. Okay, one second. Okay, so currently I'm fielding the 13-inch Scar 17 308 lightweight battle rifle to hunt deer. Remember I told you, like, if you want to be Rambo to hunt deer, be Rambo? Bro, this is high speed, low drag, bro. Navy SEAL. No. Is that rifle a purpose-built hunting rifle? Not for deer, no. It's more for people hunting, really. Literally. If you had to assign it a hunting role. Nonetheless, one of my personal reasons for selecting this weapon for hunting is me being very familiar with the rifle. I'm getting more familiar with it. Shooting it. I've been shooting it a lot this year as part of the Pew Science SCAR project, learning about its technical performance parameters, and most importantly, the ballistics of the 13-inch barrel 308 are more than adequate for medium-sized game animals where I hunt. So for me, when I started using the SCAR, and I started really loving it for what it is, I was like, oh my God, like if I'm going to really immerse myself in SCAR land and deck this rifle out, whatever, I haven't kept track of the cost because it'd give me a heart attack. I don't know if you see my SCAR, but it's like, I'm sure I could buy a car for what is on that rifle, or two. So a nice car. So it's fine. I mean, it's, you only live once, right? But when I saw that when I started thinking about it, and I really ended up liking it, and I was like, well, 13-inch 308, and I started practicing with it at 400 yards, and I was like, man, with a 1-8 scope, I was hitting steel. I'm like, dude, I can kill a deer with this. Like, I'm not gonna hunt that far. I hunted 100 yards. You know, I was like 150 grain 308 bullet at 100 yards out of a 13-inch barrel, that's just fine. That's just fine for killing most things. I'm like, I'll be fine. And so, so that's what I'm doing, right? So that's what I'm doing. And I'm here to tell you the SCAR is a very loud weapon system. It is not quiet, dude. Mine in particular is even louder because the barrel's shorter, right? It's 13-inch. So it's that CQC barrel. That is not a normal SCAR 17 barrel. It is short. So for me, I already knew going into this, I was going to wear supplemental hearing protection when hunting. I already knew. Okay. And furthermore, the SCAR, it's very gas sensitive. So my goals going in for silencer selection, this is where I'm honing in on this, right? Because we have Pew Science data and analysis. Going in, my goals were size, weight, sound reduction to the shooter's ear. Like those are the three. Like when I say size, I mean length. So length, weight, and sound reduction, just like I told you. And flow rate. I had a fourth requirement for my specific case. Okay. So those goals are very hard to optimize together. They're very hard to optimize technically, right? Because of the silencers available on the current market, and clearly we're talking about 30 caliber silencers. Of the silencers available in the current market, there are really two that stand out immediately. The CGS Hyperion K and the OSS HX QD762. But the OSS HX QD762, it's a little too big for what I want. I've used it on the gun. It's actually kind of cool in that gun. It's a little too big for what I want for hunting. And it's a little too heavy. The Surefire SOCOM 762 RC2, it stands out as well. And you know what? The Dead Air Sam NS stands out. What did I say? I was saying flow rate, right? 308 and flow rate, and what suppresses for the size with flow rate. Remember that article I did with those four silencers? But out of the 4 silencers in that article I wrote, whenever that was, the Hyperion K is really the best on paper for this application because of the weight and the length. It's suppressing, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, and this is all from memory. Don't hate me if I get the rankings wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Hyperion K suppresses similar to a SOCOM. Oh, I have to look. I try to wing that. I'll feel bad if I say it wrong. Hold on. I'm going to PScience.com. Rankings. Boom. Okay, 1 second. Shoot, man, I hate to. I'm apparently not an encyclopedia. All right, ammunition sort supersonic 308 only. Okay, boom. All right, sort by overall composite suppression rating. What do we got? What we got? Where my Hyperion K at? Okay, Hyperion K. 37.1 at the ear on the bolt gun. The Surefire is 37.8. Okay, so yeah, they're pretty close. What's their overall? So 37, 38. Okay, yeah. So the SOCOM 762 RC2 and the Hyperion K have pretty similar performance, right? They have pretty similar performance, but the Hyperion K is like way smaller and lighter than the SOCOM 762 RC2. We talked about this ad nauseum back in the day when I reviewed this stuff, but they both have very high flow rate for their suppression. The Hyperion K is, they're both very advanced. The Hyperion K is even more advanced, right? The CGS Hyperion technology is newer technology. It's much newer technology than the Surefire technology. Surefire technology is actually very old. It just so happens to be a very good old technology. The CGS technology is like, it may as well be aliens compared, but they work very similar in some ways. And because of that, you see very similar performance. However, the Surefire technology, for it to work like the CGS technology, it needs a much larger envelope. Okay? That's key. And you know that. This is proven fact. So, out of the four, you look at them, the Hyperion K, the HXQD 762, the SOCOM 762 RC2, and the Sam NS, you're like, Hyperion K all day, every day for what we're doing here, lightweight hunting silencer. So, recently, a little monkey wrench for me personally, thrown into the mix. Recently, Surefire had donated some silencers to Pew Science. They donated silencers to the Pew Science SCAR project. Bless up, Surefire. Powerful Surefire. They donated an original RC, 762 RC, and a Mini 2. 762 Mini 2. So now I had an interesting decision point. Okay. The SOCOM 762 Mini 2, it's the same length as the CGS Hyperion K. And I know, without even testing it, that it's going to have a very high flow rate because it uses similar technology to the full-size SOCOM 762 RC2. So I thought, okay, maybe it's worth checking out on the SCAR. And I know it's going to be loud, but maybe I'll be surprised. I don't know. So I shot both on the SCAR, the Hyperion K and I think I told you about the SCAR project. I tried the Hyperion K, the RC, the OSS, and the Mini 2. The Hyperion K I have, it's an R&D sample, and it needs to be modified for the tapered thread adapter so I can use it on the SCAR. So although I am confident it's going to do well on the gun because I have shot it, I didn't want it to accidentally loosen because the taper wasn't engaging because of the dimensions, and so you need the taper for that to work on the thread adapter. So just because the way it was bottoming out. So instead of that, I was like, well, this is as good a time as any. Let me test this, or rather, let me use this other silencer. I started using the Mini 2 on the SCAR. I think you've seen pictures of that. I started using the Mini 2. So far, it's doing okay. It's not even supposed to be used on a barrel that short, 308. It's not designed for that. And so far, anecdotal reports from Mrs. Pew Science have indicated that the Mini 2 is very loud on the SCAR. She indicated when we were hunting and shooting several times, she shoots with me a lot. I love her so much. She indicated that in the far field, she noticed significant propagation. In other words, far away, there were boomy reports and reflections indicative of gunshot signature. It carries far. It's loud. Okay, and it just does. And and you know what, guys? I haven't shown you yet, but I've tested the Mini 2 on 20-inch 308. So I can compare that data to the data I have on these other silencers, but I haven't had a chance to dig into the analysis yet, so I have nothing to say about it. It was done with internal Pew Science funding, so I will get to it when I can. Now, for the time being, I'm most likely going to switch to the Hyperion K on the 13-inch SCAR due to the way the silencer works, because as we know, CGS Hyperion technology ramps up efficiency with high pressure. It's the way it's designed. It's actually cool. So I'm like, that's why it's kind of fun to use the Hyperion K on 13-inch 308 because I know it won't break. There's not many super lightweight titanium 308 silencers that can survive 13-inch 308 properly. Like, I know people have like burned down silencers on like 4-inch or 7-inch 5.56, but that's not the same. That's not the same thing. I'm telling you, 13-inch 308 with a Hyperion technology silencer is something that the silencer is like, okay, thank you, sir. Can I have another? It's like, yeah, let's do it. And so I'm probably going to settle on the Hyperion K for now on the 13-inch SCAR because of the way it works, because of its performance on 20-inch 308 relative to the full-size SOCOM 762 RC2, and for its weight and for its length. Handling the weapon with the Hyperion K is a different experience. End of story. I just know how it feels. The balance is better. It's a light silencer. You can feel the difference. So, that's my current hunting selection is like why that's not going to be applicable to a lot of you, because a lot of you aren't hunting with a short barrel semi-auto piston 308, because you're like, why would I ever do that? That's crazy. And it's like, well, I have a dual purpose. I'm a busy man, and I'm killing 300 birds with one stone, because I'm multitasking everything I do. What better way to be super familiar with the weapon test platform than using it to murder with, right? You gotta, when you murder with a weapon, you gotta make sure you understand that weapon, right? So Mrs. Pew Science, she's using the CGS Helios QD-TI on the 16-inch fix rifle, bolt action rifle with the CGS titanium taper direct thread. Okay. If you go back in the episodes of this podcast, you'll recall that silencer is quieter than the Hyperion K on Supersonic 308, isn't it? You can see that in the ranking section, and it's still very lightweight. Like I said, you can use the taper direct thread mount that interfaces directly with a Q barrel. It's a great choice for the gun. It has more flow restriction or has more back pressure than the Hyperion K, but for the bolt gun, it's not an issue like it is on the Scar. So it's really at home. Okay, so those are our current two use cases for the hunting season this year. They are two different hunters, different weapons, different silencers, same exact use case, right? With the caveat, again, that I'm using the Scar for multiple purposes as I continue familiarization with the system in different environments, okay? And it's so much different than a bolt gun. I continue to put it through its paces, right? I got to understand it. So, and we're well past 1,000 round mark on the gun now, by the way. It's awesome. So, oh, and by the way, it should be known, she's still using hearing protection with the Helios QD-TI, even though it's well into the 40 zone at the shooter zero on the 20-inch gun. And why? Layers. Multiple layers of hearing protection. And I can tell you, as the bystander to her shooting, that gun is spooky. And it's not even a big silencer. It's also super accurate. Like that silencer on that barrel is perfectly concentric. It's exceptional. That's something. A lot of some silencers are made really well, and they do not induce a lot of point of impact shift. Like, and they also, your precision isn't affected, and it's like, man, those 3D printed CGS silencers are really concentric. I mean, the OSS too, the Flow 5, like I'm telling you, man, the precision, it's exceptional. It's exceptional. I just been so pleased with it. And so I hope this discussion helped for the silencers. You may be interested to know, that this is personal use cases for silencers, and I have all the data, right? There's no bias here. Okay, this is me using Pew Science data analysis and all the silencer parameters myself, just like you would. I just so happen to have access to these silencers, so this is what I'm picking. You know what I mean? So this is how a hunter new to silencers could approach this. Figure out what you need and why, and then make some judgment calls using real data. Okay, but so to go back to my first point about the two gentlemen that taught me how to hunt deer and their reluctance to change, and the reluctance of many very experienced people, regardless of activity they're doing, to change. Their reluctance is based upon failure points. They don't want to introduce a point of failure. But if you listen to everything I said in this topic, you are better equipped to have an alternate power route like Arnold in Terminator 2. Like you're going to get a failsafe because you're going to know what you're doing, and you're going to learn enough about them, and it's going to enhance your experience, and it's going to make you more awesome. Okay? That's right. Now, a quick note about thermal, because I didn't forget. Now, we used it. One second. What are we, almost an hour in? Oh, this is going to be a late night for me. That's okay. We used thermal this opening weekend for deer. And now, for the first time during actual deer season, I used helmet-mounted thermal. I am proud to say that is now a reality in 2022. Been talking about this forever, finally did it. And I've used it to watch animals before the season, but this is the first official hunting day using it. I used it in the dark prior to shooting light, and I used it after shooting light in the dark. And I also used it intermittently during the day, during daylight, per typical, because it's thermal. And on my helmet, I used the dual setup. So Voodoo S on the left eye and Skeet IRL on the right eye. Okay, the Voodoo was running off the battery pack on my helmet that I use as a counterweight. And the Skeet was running off of a CR123 because it's super low power drain. And that thing can run forever on a battery. The higher resolution and the exceptional display quality of the Voodoo, it allows me to use the digital zoom on the helmet in a surprisingly useful way. I can hit the zoom button and toggle between 1x and 2x and 4x on the Voodoo very quickly. And what I do is I'm getting a little bit better view of the things I'm looking at. It's nothing compared to native higher optical magnification with a bigger thermal. Do not get it twisted. Do not think it's some kind of magic thing, but the algorithms are really great. The resolution is pretty good. It does help, and it did prove useful hunting deer in real time. It did help me. Mrs. Pew Science, she was getting super educated with thermal use in her blind she was in. She was using the Helion XP50. It's a standby thermal I've used for years. It definitely enhanced her hunting experience. She had used it before, but not solo for multiple hunts. And she did that this weekend. Multiple hunts solo with thermal. She was able to spot things from her area, let me know where they were, and we could tag team the deer, spotting just like coyotes would hunt, dude. It was awesome without having to circle around and read wind like the coyotes do. Right? You know that coyotes hunt in pairs, right? Coyotes hunt in pairs. They're predators, just like you. Coyotes, just like you. Okay, they're smart. But you can hunt in pairs too. You can. And with thermal, your two-person team is incredibly efficient. That's right. Literally nothing was sneaking up. We spotted everything. It got rather crazy, actually, because there were deer coming from multiple directions, and we started calling them out as known objectives from our intel gathering, right? Like our camera database, because we have over 91,000. I would think we just hit 92,000 photos today. Over the past year, we've been monitoring remotely these photos, and we are very familiar with the deer. So we have in-depth profiles on each deer's movement, their habits, their routes, and now we have thermal and visible spectra eyes on those targets, which is really great. You know, it enhanced our hunting experience on opening weekend. It did. You know, we were in two separate overlapping locations. We were able to spot independently in multiple spectra, able to reference previous intel. She was learning more about deer and their behavior and anatomy. So I was able to instruct her remotely via text message, so she could learn more about aging on the hoof, right? It's very good, and especially when you change area of operation for deer, different nutrition in the environment can affect the body size of the deer, and when you're aging on the hoof, meaning you are making you're using imagery, like visual identification, to age the deer in real time, so you can determine whether or not you want to shoot the deer, more or less. That is hard when you change hunting zones, because the deer have different characteristics. They have similar characteristics, but an old deer in one location might look like a young deer in another location. So it's just part of education. It's part of hunter's education, right? Wildlife management. So we also used the multiple spectra observation to talk a lot about the deer behavior in real time and make some field judgment calls on what kills we would make or not make. You know, and on this particular trip, we decided not to take any shots. It was very good. A lot of learning, a lot of great deer that we saw and confirmed in person, which is, it's always good to match with their intel packets. We had little dossiers on these deer. We have little target packets, little target packages on these deer, and we did a lot of future targeting data gathering too. We got even more intel real time. See, so we're I don't know if you know this about me, but I get a little deep into subjects, and he does. I treat this like any other intel gathering operate. Like, for one, something you know about me is I play the long game. I'm patient, and I'm patient. I've learned to become more patient with hunting, and that's something I've learned more with the people who told me how to hunt. They always told me about it, but it took experience for me to get it. Like by nature, I'm impatient, but I've had to learn patience. And yeah, we treat deer observation like we create full intel packets on these deer. Like, I'm telling you, we target these dudes. Like, we target these deer. Like, these deer are not safe. I would hate to be one of those deer, because for one, it's going to be death from above and they're never going to see it coming. But they are being watched, and we are not here to miss or like mess up. Like, we don't go in like, oh, that's a random animal. Like, yeah, is a deer going to show up that you've never seen before? I mean, God willing, that's awesome. I love when that happens. But right now, the way we're hunting, dude, it's more targeting. It's awesome. I love it. And thermal is a big part of that, because it allows you to spot your objectives so quickly. And I can't wait to get a thermal game camera, dude. I know they exist. They've got to. I'll make one. Could you imagine? Oh my God, could you imagine? Like a thermal game camera that can first it identifies, and then it launches a drone. The drone comes up, starts filming the behavior of the animal. Then the drone redocks automatically back into its safe house to recharge and lay dormant until the next objective. Right? And obviously, this technology is I use this for security as well. And obviously, we could do this for humans if we were so inclined. I'm just saying it's good to practice on animals. So, on the last evening hunt, thermal was very important, and there was a very bright moon, so you could see a lot. Those are kind of interesting nights. But even with a very bright moon, thermal is key for spotting where the deer are, and especially when you're leaving your area. What we try to do, we try not to spook the deer as we leave if we're close to them. If they're feeding or something, if they're still around where we're kind of hidden in our sniper's nests, we try to leave no trace that we were ever there. We try not to disturb anything. At that point, what did I have? Oh yeah, I had a PVS 14 that I was alternating with a skeet. I do that. I'll leave the voodoo on my left eye, and I'll alternate between the PVS 14 on my right eye or the skeet. And the night vision, I had to put the daytime cap on it with a little pinhole because the moonlight was too strong. That one night, and so in that situation, thermal is just superior. And in my experience, locating animals with night vision versus thermal, it's so lopsided. It's such a lopsided proposition that I actually recommend thermal first for hunters. For actual locating things that are alive, thermal's king. Thermal's king. I don't even understand what you would do. I cannot imagine you using your night vision to hunt without thermal. That would be, to me, that's almost worse. That's worse than daytime with binoculars. It's you want to be worse? What are you doing? You can use thermal during the day and night. I just don't get it. I think it's everyone wants to be tactical or something. I don't get that. I think the real hunters understand thermal is the thing. So that, I think that's enough time on this. That's a quick rundown of real use cases of silencers and thermal when hunting. This is just I've talked about this before, but I want to give you real life experience. Because if you're going to go into this and you're an experienced hunter, you need to know maybe all this stuff I talked about, it's not useful for you. And you're like, you know what? The juice isn't worth the squeeze, Jay. That's really expensive stuff. I'm like, you know what? That's fine, bro. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just giving you information. What you do with that information, that's up to you. That's the beauty of freedom, right? Okay, so I hope this helps people. I'll give you some more reports on real experience later, but I know there are a lot of people listening that may be interested in things like this. So, hey, it's for you folks. Do with the information what you will. It is for you. Topic 2, at a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 21 seconds. Okay. Get some water here. Oh, man, I am actually... I'm not sore yet from the workout, but I've been sitting now for 1 hour and 5 minutes, and I didn't quite stretch enough after I worked out. I'm getting stiff. This doesn't feel good. Topic 2, new sound signature reviews this week. Multiple. You can have a little data as a treat. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't mean that like, you can have some data. Like, I'm not, like, it's a saying. It's a joke. Pew Science has been going pretty hard in the paint. And by that, I mean me. And, my family. It's like, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like, do you think this is normal? Like, what I'm doing right now? Like, put this in perspective. Okay? It's insane. But you guys have gotten a lot of data recently, and so what I wanted to do, I wanted to continue that trend, and I just have this desire to really pack this fourth quarter strongly and tightly. I want to pack it tight. So we're closing in on 100 articles on the website, and I don't know that I've taken a break this year. Yeah, it's completely and utterly insane, both in the quantity and the quality. Frankly, I think they're both noteworthy. Not only is there more silencer data on pewscience.com than anywhere else, the quality and the usefulness of the data is so much higher than any. I have not found anywhere else comparable. I've looked, dude. I've went to the labs. Like, they don't have anything like this. So this week you're gonna get 2 articles. Buckle up, family. The data analysis you are about to see is very interesting, and frankly, extremely pleasantly surprising to me. God, I would hate to be a silencer consumer right now. You're gonna be like, oh my God. I'm pretty excited about it, actually, and because this is one of those cases that I knew this was technically possible. What you're gonna see, I knew this was technically possible from what I know now, but I didn't think we would see it in the market so soon. I didn't think we would see it so soon. And I don't want to give away, because I almost said something just now. Oh my God, I'm itching. I'm itching to tell you. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so great. I just can't. I don't want to ruin the surprise. It's good. It's better when you see it all at once. But okay, something else that's kind of exciting to me. The results shown in the articles you see are going to turn some things on their heads. Turn some things. Turn some people. Yeah, no, turn some things. There are some industry people, some silencer designers that are about to freak out or be in complete denial. I have no doubt this data is going to be extremely controversial, dude. I'm going to publish this, and people are going to be, so many people are going to be like, oh my God, and I'll be like, I know. And some people are going to be so upset. And I just don't know what the balance is going to be. I think it's going to be mostly positive. That's what it usually is. But there's probably going to be some vocal angry people. And hey, you want to be angry with me because you didn't think this could happen? Hey, man, you're killing the messenger. But it's like, that's why we're doing this, dude. It's interesting because I've seen this, and it's actually really recently I've seen this too, and that people are doubling down, and I'm like, man, you still think that? I've actually seen some things about signature coalescence, like wave dynamics. I've seen some things in writing that are incorrect, and this is going to be one of those situations Well, it's actually multiple because there's 2 reviews. You're going to get 2 reviews. This is going to be 2 situations all at once where the public is going to be like, what? And the industry is going to be like, surprise Pikachu face meme. They're like gaping mouth, like, oh, mouths are going to drop. I know it. And if they don't, I'll be surprised, because when I took a step, like at first when I was looking through the data, I was like, okay. And then I took a step back, like away from my desk, and I just looked and I was like, you know what? This is actually a big deal. Like holistically, I was like, wow. I was like, I wonder if people are going to freak out, and they might. So grab your sponges to soak up these tears, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like this is as good a time as any to release data like this, and frankly, I didn't think we would have it so quickly. It's funny how Pew Science works at this point. It's funny, it's called the Silencer Sound Standard for a reason. It's the standard, and you're about to see why. You are about to see why again this week. That's right. Buckle up. Buckle up, fam. Topic 3 at a time of 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 46 seconds. I'm proud of this, dude. You're going to be like, oh my God, why didn't anyone show this before? Well, no one wanted to put the time and effort to do it, and I did. So now you're going to get it. So topic 3, I just finished sending the latest batch of welcome emails to the Pew Science members, and some of you have already responded to them. I love that. I love to talk with you. I know I haven't responded to your responses yet, but I will. So thank you so much for your support. This is grassroots, man. You're making it continue. Team effort. And we're winning. And you guys, a lot of you guys are out of control, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Believe me. Some more folks joined even after I sent the emails. I'm like, what is happening? This is awesome. The effort's spreading. We are accelerating. Our efficiency is increasing. That's right. The publications keep coming. It's tidal wave. The learning keeps happening. The teaching keeps happening by the members to others, and we are creating a self-sustaining chain reaction of like-minded individuals here to spread the word about subjective, suppressed, small arm signature quantification. That's what we're doing. And it's glorious. Okay? Do you need the quietest silencer? No, you don't. Are you starting to understand what that even means? Yes, you are. Are silencer manufacturers taking advantage of the education? Also, yes. This is bigger than them. And it's bigger than you. And it's bigger than me. Pew Science is alive. That's right. And it's for everyone. Pew Science is for everyone. It can't be stopped. It's a tidal wave of truth. It's immune from industry tomfoolery. And it's for you. I said that from the day I launched it. I'm doing this for you. I said it. ARFCOM locked the thread, and Sniper's Hide deleted the post. Why do you think that was? That's right. I said it is all for you. I'll never forget that. So stay tuned for more data this week. It's going to be a banger, believe me. Thank you for all your support. I couldn't do it without you. Much love. I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.